Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. So let's talk about Trudeau's resignation, the decision to prorogue Parliament, and what that means for Canadian gun owners. So first, some of you will be wondering, what does it mean to prorogue the government? Well, basically they just call a timeout. They say we're going to pause the government and everything, we're going to put an asterisk on that, is going to stop while we sort some things out. In this case, what they're sorting out is that the Liberal Party is going to be choosing a new leader. And so after that, things will resume. So let's talk about some misconceptions, because there's a lot of people who've asked me questions. There's a lot of information going around out there. So the first misconception a lot of people have is that this means Trudeau is no longer the Prime Minister. That's not correct. He's still the Prime Minister until we get a new one. And the next one is going to be another Liberal as well, at least briefly, because the Liberal Party, once Trudeau declared that he's resigning, that triggers their process to select a new leader. And that new leader that they select will be Prime Minister for at least like 15 minutes. Because after that, the first thing that they have to do to reopen the government is have what's called the speech from the throne. And that will probably get shot down. The Jagmeet Singh has said that he will call an election, and the Bloc has said that. So assuming that they can be relied upon to keep their promises, there's going to be an election basically immediately after they select their new leader. Now, that's a big assumption. We'll give it 50-50. But the big one a lot of people have been asking me, tons of emails, tons of DMs, is does this revoke any of the gun bans, including the most recent order in council? And the answer to that is an emphatic no. All of these guns are still banned. Do not take them to the range in celebration, because you could be charged. I have already seen examples of people charged over issues with respect to those items. So don't. Everything is still banned. This has not changed any of the recent developments. Now, next question is, can they still ban guns? Because they were talking about banning some more guns in February. Unfortunately, the answer to that is yes. They can't pass new legislation, but orders in council theoretically remain on the table. Now, by sort of tradition, they should be a little more restrained on that. And further, it's likely that they'll hold off. They probably don't want to saddle whichever new candidate they pick with a bunch of further poorly considered bans, but it is possible. There's various sorts of ways they could make that happen. And what about after the election is called? So they bring in the new leader, they do the throne speech, they get shot down, we're now in an election. Well, what happens at that point is the government hasn't actually been defeated yet, or at least we're in an election, but the government is still in power. But by convention, they're under the caretaker convention, which says that the government should only be holding things at status quo until the new government. Basically, it's just hold down the fort, don't break anything, and let the new government come into power, and then they will take over. But there are still potential workarounds built into the caretaker convention. The convention allows for actions that are routine, non-controversial, urgent and in the public interest, reversible by a new government without undue cost or disruption, or agreed upon by the other side. Now, some of these you're probably not going to put this under. Routine? No. Non-controversial? Nope. But they could try to claim that this was urgent and in the public interest. Because it's so urgent that they ban these guns that they have not done a buyback in forever. And they still don't really have a coherent plan for one. But they could still try to claim that it was urgent for some reason. They could also try to claim that it was reversible by a new government without undue cost or disruption. Basically saying it's an order in council, the new government can just say, we're going to unorder in council. But the whole point, if they do this, the whole point of this would be to actually make it disruptive for a new government to reverse this. if they push anything new in terms of bans through in this time, it'll be for election purposes and to say, look at the additional guns that the other side will totally legalize if they're allowed into power. But even mid-election, they could try to claim that this new set of gun bans was either urgent in the public interest or reversible, and try to use that as their justification. So, in short, Canadian gun owners want to breathe a sigh of relief, but we're not out of the woods yet. Only when we get a new government that respects us, and hopefully that'll happen, can we start to relax. But the big thing I want to tell people, the most important, critical thing is don't take these guns out shooting, because, as I mentioned before, I have already seen people who've been charged over this stuff. And if that is you, if you end up getting charged, then the problem you run into is that they will be seeking a gun ban. And if you get a gun ban over this, then that gun ban does not go away with a new government. It is very unlikely that any new government, no matter how friendly they might be, it's very unlikely that they would be seeking to sort of retroactively undo any sorts of bans that were issued. So be very, very careful. Do not mess around with this. I can also let you know that I have seen examples of people who have been charged for complying with the amnesty. 100% compliance. They have done everything right, but the government happens to come across these guns, notwithstanding the fact that they are stored lawfully, that they are in connection with the amnesty. Some people have been charged because when the police go in, they don't know about the amnesty. They don't know about any of this stuff that's going on. And so all they know is that they pick up a gun and they read the make and the model, and they say, okay. And then they plug that into the databases, and it comes back as, this is a prohibited firearm. And so at that point, they charge people, and it's up to lawyers and the accused and so forth to sort this out later. There have been multiple sets of people who have faced charges in scenarios like this, and it's kind of messed up. So when they say that the amnesty provides you protection, not so much. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you found this to be interesting or educational. I know it's a shorter video, but this one I wanted to keep a little punchier just so that the information would get out there. But I also want to thank my Patreon supporters at the $50 level: Bottle Shock and Oz, Canada's National Firearms Association, the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights, and the Canadian Shooting Sports Association, as well as PJs Forever, Angela Skelton, Cielo, and Purple Dragonair. I also want to thank at the $20 level, Lindsay, Mark, Larry Kalniak, Kyle Fox, Drunkle of the Baileys, Cameron Johnson, Andrew Elsich, Marvin CZ, and Dorky Dane. Thank you as well to my $10 supporters who will be in the crawl immediately following. Thank you for watching. Hope this has armed you with knowledge. See you next time.